of those funds that are left over are due to not being able to expend them until they give the stamp of approval. Because what happens is, if they decide not to approve, we go on and expend those funds. Guess what? We're going to have to pay those funds back. So I judge on air of caution, and I like to get that award letter, which mayor has to sign off on. And until I get that, I can't proceed on the CV funds. That total actually, public service, and we have $16,854.94 that we've expended for the year of '24. That's covering rent, house payments, utilities, and food assistance. Total expended through 2024 was a total of $157,628.45. I actually skipped over an area, the contract under public service. That is usually a sub-recipient that is a funnel through the city to a sub-recipient that expends those funds. But right now it is in-house with CDBG. So I am actually servicing utility bills, et cetera. We have someone that calls in and need housing, temporary housing in a hotel. I get them in a hotel. If they have food issues, may have had their electricity cut off, food spoiled. So I go in and help get them some food into their home once they get everything back up and running. And also I made a reference that the funds awarded for 2024 were not issued until 2025. I just want you all to wrap your mind around that. And so now that we gave the green light to go ahead, we have a total of $643,332, which means in that allocation, $230,739 is the regular allocated amount. And then we brought forward from 2018 up until 2024, 2023, excuse me, $412,593. A lot of you are probably wondering, where did those funds come from? Well, what happens each year is that we have an allocation of those 7 areas that I told you about. We may have set up some funds to go out to certain activities that fall through, or we have an allocated amount, which is, say, Boys and Girls Club to receive a certain amount. However, in that same fund, we still had some overage that we did not utilize, and it was just sitting there. So what we did was reconcile all of those years and brought them forward to 2024, because what we are now on is a timeliness work plan with HUD where they want you to expend all of those funds. If not, guess what? We lose them. So that was the reason for all of the reconciling, making sure we knew what funds were out there, how we needed to move them forward. And then now we have a plan to go forward for housing, economic development. We're going to create a suitable living environment, which is removing demolitions and et cetera in that area. Public facility improvements, which is under repairs to Johnson and Excel Parks, repairs at Boys and Girls Club of Jacksonville, Jacksonville Senior Center, Jacksonville Towers, and Martin Street Youth Center, which will total $155,000. We have also public service. We have 2 sub-recipients that we are actually doing risk assessments with right now. And once we get finalized with the risk assessments, we can go on and now sort of slide the actual lead to them to do the utility assistance and the temporary housing, as well as the food distribution. We also have administration, which pulls the $46,148. Now that I've gone through the expenditures, I wanted to explain, like I mentioned, the delays. It did cause a lot of back and forth that I had to do with HUD to get a workout plan that they would actually agree with. We are set to be under 1.5% ratio by May of 2025. It's going to take a lot of pulling from different departments, and as well as expending some money, pretty quickly within that time frame. So that's why we have those laid out areas that we will apply these funds at very quickly in the next couple of months. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I have a question.
Okay.
You talk about the repairs. What were the repairs on the two parks and Boys and Girls Club, Senior Center, the towers, Martin Street?
So this is the future. The allotted Excel has damages to a couple of the benches and things, the playground equipment. So there will be some funds allocated for replacing those items. Johnson Park is the major park where the bulk of that amount will be going toward. Right now, the restrooms are in ill repair. They need to be possibly totally rebuilt. Also, playground equipment, et cetera. There's a couple of pavilions that are sort of depleted on one side, needing some repairs to it. So most of the bulk of that fund will be going toward the Johnson Park.
Okay.
Over at the Boys and Girls Club, they will be receiving, if any of you have visited lately, probably in the past couple of years, when you walk under the awning or the cover to go into the front door, there is a gap and water just comes down on you along that whole stretch. So that whole awning will be replaced. There is going to be work on the door. The flooring right there in the front and all around in all the areas will be replaced. There will be, once the substantial amendment, they will have a ducting changed over in the gym that will allow proper ventilation, and also their system will be able to treat airborne pathogens. So that's why it's coming out of the CV funds and not the regular. So there's several different moving parts for that particular center. Over at the Senior Center, with what happened just recently with their plumbing, I know that the flooring is now needing to be assisted with. Before, it was some things dealing with their stove and areas on the wall that plumbing was leaking through. So now the focus, I do have to meet with Tanya to discuss those other issues now that it's a different list of issues that have come from the actual plumbing issue, et cetera. Most likely it will be the flooring was the main thing, getting it sort of slip resistant with it always keeping much moisture. And the Jacksonville towers, they are wanting, the elder there, they don't have a place for their dogs and pets. They had requested a dog park, but that's something I'm still checking into. The main concern was their freezer and their stove was needing some replacement, and they didn't have the funds to really get it done. And then the Martin Street Youth Center is dealing with a roof that is leaking very badly. I met with Mr. Glenn the other day, and it's a lot of things going on in there that's causing leakage in a lot of different areas of the center.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to point out that we will be doing a sort of an adjustment to the regulations for CDBG. Just over the 2 years that I've been here, what I've noticed from my counterparts in different cities and also across the states is that due to the cost of labor, increased prices on material, it's become a challenge to stay within that window of cost when it comes down to handicap accessibility, housing rehab, emergency loan grant, the sewer grant, home buyers assistance grant. And so what I did was look at some of the eligibility criteria and the limits needed to be increased. And so that's something I will bring before you all just to give you the update on the increases once the annual allocation comes out in a couple of months. So those will be increasing. For example, to make a house accessible, the limit was at 5,000. It's being increased to up to 9,000 because of the cost to go in and remodel, do doors, and the cost of the labor, and as well as the material to have to come in to do those remodels or those accessibility. Just to do a roof used to be where you could spend $7,500. We just did a home the other day. It was probably about 1,000 square feet, which meant the roof was about 2,000 square up for the pitch. And that barely hit within the guidelines of the 7,500 limit that I have. So going forward with the new funds, we will increase the allowable from 75 up to the total being 12, because some of those remodels include HVAC systems, and you can't replace an HVAC system these days with 7,500. So, any questions on that?
Well, thank you for all that you do. Sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your one woman show?
One woman show. I'm welcoming any additional assistance.
Yeah. Sounds like it's needed.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Very good.
I commend you for having such a little funds to work with, doing such a great job.
Thank you.
Everybody's in that job and doing the same thing. They've done a good job with such a little finance. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
No other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll close the public hearing time for that. And so like I said, this is for the approval of her CAPA report. So if y'all don't have any other questions, all in favor of approval, just let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, by nay. Thank you very much. Next, informational item, discussion of volunteer appointment process. Councilmember McCoy.
Yes. So in your packets, you have basically a form that sort of revises that. And the way this came about is earlier this year, there was lots of discussion. I've had contact and discussion with several constituents around the appointment process for Jacksonville, one of them being there being no way to submit an online form. The lack of transparency is something that we've continued to hear even recently with much of what we've seen. So to ensure that we're providing that and making sure that it's fair and accessible for everyone, I did speak with our IT department and ask how difficult it would be for us to have an online form, and he said that was no issue. It can be internal. I briefly discussed it with the mayor, so went ahead and revised that form to include some questions and also adding a piece in there that isn't in there. We've been asking for those who are appointed and will end up on the agenda to show up to the meeting, and that just doesn't just serve the council, but also for the residents of Jacksonville to see those people who serve in on what commissions and what boards. So that ask, I believe, is just a fair ask. The other item that a constituent mentioned to me was the transparency piece, which is why initially when this was submitted, it had the clerk's email address, and that was for record keeping, just for us to have that database of those volunteers, because each of those commissions and boards, they do work differently. They are set up differently, such as the Water Commission, who selects their own people. But I do understand, and we want to offer that transparency to the residents of Jacksonville to ensure that they see that we are working to ensure that it's a fair process and that they are able to submit that form online and receive notification that it has been received. So I just wanted you guys to see what I'd revised and come up with. And if there were any questions from you or anything you thought that might need to be added, I just want to move toward that transparency and making sure that our residents know that we are here and we want them to serve. One of the items that did come up and I thought was disheartening in a sense was those who wanted to serve but just didn't feel that they would be selected, because I have a couple who did submit. They mailed in forms and they've not heard anything back, and it's been over a year. So I feel like this could streamline that process and offer that, again, that transparency that they're asking for. So,
Any
Any
questions, comments? there's no action on this tonight. This is, like I said, informational, working towards this process, so.
I do have a question. Is this form, is it just gonna be a Google form base? Is that the idea that IT is running with?
I imagine that's more Brian. I don't see him in, but he and one of his other guys. So he asked me to come by and just kind of walk through, but that's possible. I'm not sure what their approach will be with that, but yeah, good question.
Any others? All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next item was ordinance 1781, amending Jacksonville Municipal Code 8.03.018 for nuisance and non-compliant conditions, parking and storage of motor vehicles. Councilmember Twitty.
At this time, could we, I'm going to ask to table it. Our city attorney's not here, and we had a few questions still. So with that being said, I would like to just table this until the next meeting, if that's okay.
All in favor of approving to table this until, for future date, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right, appreciate that. Last item of new business is appointment for Civil Service Commission, the reappointment of Bob Baker for a term to expire 4/1/2031.
Move the appointment.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, or?
Oh, hold on. I have a question. Is Mr. Baker here today? Will you come up for us, please? Hi.
I am Robert Baker.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Baker.
Yes, ma'am.
If you will state your name and also the commission that you'll be serving on, and can you just give us a little, I don't know what the Civil Service Commission does, so do you mind sharing a little bit?
Yeah, I'm Robert Baker, and I'm one of the representatives of the Civil Service Commission. My only objection is, why am I always reapproved on April 1st of all days? Is there a cause behind that?
The joke's
Don't
on
take
you.
it personal.
Yeah. Under the municipal code book, on a Class A city, we're covered under Section 51. And if you wanted to ever go through that, it's pretty much at length. To break it down simplistically, we are actually monitoring over the fire department and also the police department. We do not regulate them. We do not tell them what to do. What we are there to do is to support them. The human resource officers, the officer is the one that allows for candidates to take the test, the initial application test. Once that test has been given, it's brought before the Civil Service Commission for the approval of the test for those applicants. Once they're hired, we once again are informed of which officers are hired. They didn't go through a one-year probation period, and at the conclusion of the one-year probation period, we are the ones that they bring before us, and being the chief of police and the chief of the fire department, they bring it before us for the approval of that. Once they become an officer for a length of time, they're eventually eligible for promotions. Once that promotional list is given, we are the ones that certify that list. The promotions are given. The chief and the fire department and also the police department make their recommendations of who they want. They bring that up before the board and we make that approval. Those officers under promotion are then given a 6-month probation period. At the completion of the 6-month probationary period, then of course they are brought back up to us for final certification. That's basically what we're doing. At times, and fortunately at a rarity, we also deal with disciplinary action. And during the course of disciplinary actions, we are nothing more. We're not judges. We are just individuals up here, and there are 6 of us. And what we're doing is we're listening to the reasons for the disciplinary action, and then we make a determination as to whether or not we sustain the action that was taken or not sustain it. And basically what we're doing.
Very nice. Thank you.
And my best buddy is the city attorney, Ms. Friedman, who sits right next to me. So.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much for your willingness to serve and for showing up tonight.
Ma'am, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you, and I wish that more people under the applications, especially thus, we're volunteers. Mm-hmm. And of course, you know, I spent a day or two at the Jacksonville Police Department, 30 of them actually. And then I went through all the ranks, I've been through all the divisions, and I've worked just about every aspect of the police department. And also during the course of that time, I have actually met some of the firemen and have worked with the fire department as well. And probably not as much as I would have liked to have. Sir? What? Reedy.
Yeah.
But at any rate, of all the city council members, like I say, I appreciate this opportunity because it is only Mr. Reedy Ray, the Honorable Mayor, Miss Twitty, of course, is my city councilwoman, and then Susan Davitt, who has been a friend of mine for eons.
Awesome.
So,
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
you bet. Thank you, ma'am.
So we have a motion and a second for that. All in favor of the reappointment of Chief Baker to this term, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? All right. Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate your service. I have no new business or unfinished business. Anybody have anything else? If not, all right, time to go home and watch Razorbacks. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, we're good.
Somebody pull this coattail.